Okay, I just thought I'd have a very quick look at Ben's latest videos, SETI and UFOs. See what he's got to say about SETI.
Is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. A group of people, mostly astronomers, have got together at some point and decided to try and contact life out there in the universe.
Well, they've tried to, they have tried to contact it once or twice. A lot of people think that's a bad idea. Most of the time they sit and listen.
Intelligences that have to exist statistically using radio transmissions, electromagnetic radiation. This technology only became possible, this project only became possible when we mastered the control of electromagnetic radiation. SETI is S-E-E-T, the search for...
S-E-E-T, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. S-E-E-T. He can't even spell S-E-T-I. Okay.
Extraterrestrial intelligence. This is not to be confused with SETI.
Yeah, well, you see, what you've got to do, you've got to search for extraterrestrial intelligence because there's very, very little evidence of terrestrial intelligence.
Which is, if you're familiar with the work of Dr. Stephen Greer.
Oh, put a line through Greer. Waste of time.
He's mentioned that. This is something entirely different. Now, it's not a single scientific program or a single scientific mission. It is a scientific movement. It's a collective name for a number of different projects that have gone on over the years. And the methods used are basically, well, there's several different methods, but the most principal one is radio astronomy. Use a lot.
Yeah, although recently they've started looking for laser bursts as well. For the last few years, I think they've been looking for high power laser bursts that they think may be used for communication.
Large radio receiver, which you find at things such as radio observatories, to scan the heavens to see if there's anything out there coming in terms of radio transmissions that resembles something intelligent, like a signal from another world.
Yeah, so these days, because they can find these planets and they can say, okay, there's a couple of planets here that might be in the Goldilocks zone of a particular star, they can train the radio telescopes on them, and they can have a listen to see if there's any radio or television broadcasting going on those planets, or if any of those planets are actually radiating some kind of beacon to attract other civilizations that may be out in space. Excuse me. So that's what SETI is. That's what SETI is up to. Hang on, where was he going with this? I got distracted by the cough.
Now, what's interesting is that there's a little bit of a paradox to do with SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, which is the main theme of my talk this evening. And that is the gulf that exists between people who are part of SETI, searching distant galaxies and distant stars for signals of something out there, and those people like me who believe that there is intelligent life out there and it's already found us. It's here now.
Yeah, well, you see, the thing is that many people believe that alien spacecraft may have actually visited the Earth, and I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility, to be perfectly honest. There is no tangible proof of that, regardless of what any of these conspiracy theorists may tell you. There is no tangible proof. There's no tangible evidence of that. And this is what SETI are doing. They're looking into space, and they're looking for a particular type of signal. It's got to be a narrowband signal. It's got to contain information. It's got to have modulation on it. So that would say it's an artificial signal. It's a synthetic signal that's been generated by a device that's been built by an intelligent critter. And if they can get several radio telescopes to pick up the same signal, that is tangible proof that signal was generated by an alien civilization, and they'll get Nobel Prizes and all this sort of stuff, and they'll be on television and they can say, here is the proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. Now, the UFO people can't do that. I mean, fuzzy pictures and tall tales, you're not going to get a Nobel Prize for that. That's where that's where the gaping chasm lies. SETI are looking for evidence. They're looking to prove there's extraterrestrial life, intelligent extraterrestrial life. Whereas the UFO brigade are happy to spruik fanciful tales. They will support UFO stories that really don't stand up to very much scrutiny at all. And because of their bias, they will say, "Oh yeah, well, you know, the government's covered it up." You know, even when you've got something that's as obvious as the person that found the Roswell debris saying it was tinfoil and rubber strips and all this sort of stuff, they will not accept that that was not an alien spacecraft. It has to be a cover-up. So that's the difference between SETI and the UFO people, and you can understand it. I can understand it anyway. I think it's completely understandable. Okay, I'll stop that there. Okay, here's Ben talking about Frank Drake, who's regarded as the father of SETI. I think Ben said he was the godfather of SETI. As you can see up in the right-hand corner there, Frank, I don't know if he's still alive actually, but he's no spring chicken. He's been doing this for a very long time. And I think Frank would be very anxious to prove that he was right about being able to detect aliens with radio telescopes before he drops off the perch, if he hasn't already.
But it was an interesting first start that Frank Drake did do, and he was hooked. And he decided after that he was going to dedicate his life to this, and indeed he did. Now, in the following year, 1961, he got together a group of people which he called the Order of the Dolphin, which is a very strange name. I don't know if they wore gowns or masks or pranced around naked or anything like that. It was
Yeah, I think Ben's telling us how he spends his weekends when he's not presenting to 10 or 15 people in the pub. Now, yeah, it was called the Order of the Dolphin because in honour of someone that was trying to was doing experiments with interspecies communication. So you've got to bear in mind that aliens, if detected, may not be they may detect radio traffic that's not meant for us. So that may be in the alien's native language, and trying to decipher what they're saying might be like trying to decipher what a dolphin is saying. There was a guy that was doing a lot of work on interspecies communication, and dolphins, I think, are regarded as the second smartest critters on the face of the earth. Well, below the face of the earth in the case of the dolphins. But apparently dolphins are very smart. Obviously they can't develop a technology because they don't have the physical dexterity. They don't have hands, you know. It's making circuit boards and soldering underwater is very difficult. So this particular chap tried to, or his team were trying to communicate with dolphins. And they thought that if this chap managed to succeed and be able to have a conversation with the dolphin, then the same methodology could be used to have a conversation with an extraterrestrial in their own language. You'd be able to decipher what they were saying. So that's why it was called the Order of the Dolphin. Okay, let's move that on. Okay, so here's Ben talking about Carl Sagan.
Carl Sagan. You know, sometimes I wish that James Bond bad guy sitting next to him had thrown him into a tank of sharks. I really do. Now, that was... how am I doing for time, by the way? Is anyone watching the time?
And, of course, perhaps I should point out to Ben that James Bond is a fictional character. Those James Bond films are not documentaries, Ben.
What's the time? It's all right, I'm not doing it myself. Oh, plenty of time, loads of time. Right, now, this chap here, Carl Sagan, proponent of SETI, he was at the first meeting in '61, carried on all his life, supporting it. You've just watched 3 clips of Carl Sagan. One during the Cosmos series, which was in 1980, and he carried on 10 years later in 1990. He died in 1997. And so you see him talking about UFOs in both those clips. You also see him talking about UFOs many years earlier when he's a young man in an interview from 1966. And in all 3 of those clips, he says essentially the same thing.
Yeah, because that's what he believes.
Throughout his entire career, he never once changed his position on the UFO issue. Now that, not even the tiniest little bit. Now that to me is a willful ignorance. You can't possibly be that mistaken.
Well, no, he's not mistaken. You've got to bear in mind that he thinks there's intelligent life out there. He's involved with SETI. He wrote the book Contact, where we pick up a signal from outer space and we build this machine. So Carl Sagan would have loved to have been able to tell us that he could prove that aliens were out there. He couldn't do that. And what he's saying is that without proof, you can't make these claims. You know, you can see lights in the sky and you can hear fanciful tales, but there is no tangible proof that aliens or alien spacecraft are visiting this planet. And there isn't. As I say, there are fanciful tales. Roswell being probably the most famous fanciful tale, but it's a fanciful tale. There was no alien spacecraft crash at Roswell. There is no tangible evidence of aliens visiting this planet. There's some interesting video footage, usually fuzzy, things a long way away. Exactly as he says, there's never you never get someone hiding in the trees with a video camera filming an alien spacecraft that's landed 100 feet away. Everything you ever see is a long way away. The clarity, the focus is not all that good. It's just, he's absolutely right, Carl Sagan.
Why was he willful ignorant in what way? When several people said he's doing it as a disinformation, he's an agent. But then he may just simply be in denial. He may simply be...
No, he's not in denial. He's a scientist, and he needs evidence to make a claim. Evidence that can be reviewed by peers, and there isn't any. It's as simple as that.
Closed-minded? I don't know, but you only have to...
No, he's obviously not closed-minded because he's looking for them. He thinks aliens are out there, intelligent aliens, and he's looking for them. But he hasn't found them, and that's what he's saying. There's nothing wrong with what Carl Sagan is saying at all, or what he said at all.
I mean, there's an awful lot to unpack there, and you only have to do a brief bit of research to realise every word he said in those clips was false.
Nah, nonsense.
Every single word. So that's a shame, that is. But that is an illustration of the SETI enthusiasts' contempt for UFOs.
Okay, I'll just end that one there, and I'll do the Fermi one as a separate clip. Okay, and here's one of the favourite themes running through the UFO alien visitation enthusiasts. The conspiracy, the alien cover-up. It has to be a conspiracy, it has to be covered up. Because if it wasn't, then it isn't happening. Okay, let's just see what he's got to say about this.
We've got to go there, haven't we? We have to, yeah. This is the bit you've all been waiting for. Could there be a cover-up? Maybe we have actually picked up a signal from another planet out there.
Well, they have picked up some what they class as good candidate signals. Signals that appear from time to time. They're repeated. They come from the same place in the galaxy. But I don't think they can. It's a while since I've read about this, but there was something that there are several parameters that you need for it to be flagged as a synthetic signal, a signal that's been generated by a device that somebody's built. It needs to be narrow band, very narrow bandwidth. It needs to have modulation. It needs to contain information, even if we can't understand it. We could tell that the signal was artificially modulated. So that's obviously an intelligence has built a device that's transmitting a signal and it's containing information. Well, as far as I know, we've never done that, because if we had, they would be shouting it from the rooftops. Hang on, let's just see what... let's just run this on a bit.
SETI has actually detected something. But guess what? The government are covering it up.
No. See, what you've got to bear in mind is that people like Seth Shostak and people that have been involved with SETI for a very long time are desperate to be able to say that they've found it. Now, Seth Shostak, I think, is in his 70s now, so he's going to be pushed for time. He's under he needs to find an alien signal pretty quick. Because he's knocking on a little bit now, and he wants his Nobel Prize. He's been doing this for his whole life, and he would like nothing better than to be able to say, we were right, we found alien life. Because remember, whoever finds alien life is going to get a Nobel Prize. No doubt about that at all. It will be one of the biggest discoveries in human history. If not the biggest. So the government is not going to be able to cover that up. If the SETI guys and Seth Shostak found alien life, if they found a signal that they were sure was an artificial signal being generated by an intelligent alien civilization or species, there's no way the government would be able to keep that quiet, not with the internet and all the social media. It's just not possible.
Aren't telling us they want to keep it a secret from us. And to be honest, it's quite rational and quite reasonable to anticipate that on theoretical ground.
No, it isn't. Anticipate it on theoretical grounds, yeah, if you're a conspiracy theorist maybe, but in the real world you wouldn't be able to keep that quiet.
It really is. Because the government have covered up the presence of extraterrestrial life in the form of their involvement with ufology and their suppression of ufological evidence. Things such as Roswell, the Roswell incident.
I put a line through Roswell. Nothing ET related to Roswell. This is a favourite go-to for the UFO conspiracy theorist. Look at Roswell. It's and they covered that up. Yeah, but it wasn't an alien spacecraft. There's nothing ET related to the Roswell incident at all. So their go-to. Their go-to ET incident never happened.
Where there was definitive physical evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence left in the middle of the desert of New Mexico.
No, there wasn't. This is another thing that these UFO conspiracy theorists spruik. There was no proof whatsoever that what was found in Mac Brazel's field was extraterrestrial. Remember, Mac Brazel described it as bits of tinfoil, scotch tape, strips of rubber. Just Google Mac Brazel's, in fact I might leave a link to it below, Mac Brazel's statement and read about what he found. It's not an ET spacecraft. You see that a lot of this belief is sort of tied to that, and you can't. Whatever you say to them, they will not cut that string. They will not bring themselves to realise the truth about Roswell, because if they do, the entire thing collapses in a heap. All this government cover-ups of recovered alien spacecraft, it is nonsense. There aren't any. No one has recovered alien spacecraft. No one has recovered alien bodies. If someone could say, hey, I've found an alien spacecraft, and it turned out to be an alien spacecraft, again, there's going to be Nobel Prizes, it's going to be... no one's going to be able to cover it up.
And this wreckage was salvaged secretly by the government, and they sealed off the area.
I was going through the Roswell story again. I'll stop that there. It's been done to death, that, and it's been killed over and over again, that particular yarn.
This is Enrico Fermi. He was a famous physicist, but he also was actually a commentator on the SETI program, and he said some very interesting things. Now, what his point was that there are, as I've just said, it's a huge universe out there, all kinds of radio noise, and there's all kinds of planets out there. I mean, we know the number of stars is 100 million in our galaxy, 100 billion, sorry, in our galaxy. There's any number of planets. There's any number of galaxies in the universe. The universe is, what, so many billion years old.
Yeah, I think it's about 14 billion, isn't it? 14 billion years old.
There's going to be more advanced more advanced...
Freudian slip there. More advanced craft.
Civilizations than we are.
Yeah, you can have more advanced civilizations, but you see, the thing is, what you've got to bear in mind, now Fermi is famous for the Fermi Paradox, and he's saying, well, if there's all this intelligent alien life out there, why can't we hear them? Why can't we hear their radio broadcasts? And what everyone seems to forget here is that all of these civilizations, the universe is 14 billion years old. This planet we're sitting on now is 3.5 billion years old. I think there's probably much older civilizations. There's probably civilizations being born as I speak. Or species that will form civilizations being born as I speak. But what people sort of don't take into account is that we're talking about picking up radio signals here. Now, we've only been generating radio signals for about 100 years. So 3.6 billion years into our evolution, for the last 100 years we've been generating radio signals. Some of them will be detectable in space over reasonable distances. Now, if you had a civilization that's 1,000 years older than us, a million years older than us, they would have been where we are a very long time ago. Now, we've been generating radio signals for about 100 years. We're moving away from that now, if you think about it. All of shortwave broadcasting is closing down. Digital radio and television uses a lot less power than the transmitters are a lot less powerful than the old analog transmitters. And we're moving to television and radio being delivered by internet services, by fibre optics, by wires, which obviously can't be picked up in space. So we're moving away from radio technology now. Certainly the sort of high power radio TV technology that will be detectable across space. We're moving away from that. And in 50 years there won't be any of that. All of our radio and television is all going to be fibre optic. There'll be millions of channels. Satellite TV, of course, is all pointing down at the Earth. The uplinks to these satellites might be, well, actually, they probably wouldn't be powerful enough to go too far out into space. But even satellite television will disappear before too long. So let's say we got a 200-year window where we would be generating radio signals that would be observable across the galaxy. Unless they're deliberately generated, of course, by places like Arecibo, and there are places in Russia, I think, that do it as well. This is METI, messaging to extraterrestrial intelligence. They don't do it very often. There's a lot of controversy about whether they should be doing it at all. Because there's a lot of people out there think it'd be a very bad idea to attract the attention of aliens to this particular planet, because it's quite a nice planet. If you look at a lot of these extrasolar planets that have been discovered, they wouldn't be very comfortable places to live. They don't spin, they don't have magnetic fields to protect people from radiation from the star and all that sort of stuff. So although they may be described as Earth-like, they're not really Earth-like as such. You couldn't go and live there. Sizes, of course, vary a lot. If you wanted to colonise one, you'd want one about the same size for the gravity. You wouldn't want to colonise a planet that was 3 times the size. You'd be struggling to walk down the street with the gravitational pull. 3G gravity pushing down on you all the time. So, if you've got a species that's on a planet similar to this, then this would be a nice juicy planet for them to come and occupy. And it might not be a good idea to advertise exactly where it is. But anyway, so the point of this is the 200-year radio window has to line up with the 200-year radio window of the alien species. And unless they went through a technological and industrial and technological revolution at exactly the same time as us and invented radio at exactly the same time as us, and even if they did that, if they're 10,000 light years away, we're not going to get their radio signals for 10,000 years. Even if they're 5 light years away, it's going to take 5 years. If they started doing it today, we wouldn't know about it for 5 years. So trying to get these 200-year windows to line up with the different species across the galaxy, I think is practically impossible. That's why looking out into space, I mean, it's worth doing. You never know your luck. And there might be somebody out there that is actually transmitting some kind of signal out into space, some kind of beacon to advertise their presence because they want to contact another civilization. But generally, looking for leaking broadcasting and communications and all this sort of stuff for our 200 years to line up with their 200 years, I think is extremely optimistic. So I think they're out there. And even if they're 500, even if they were 500 years ahead of us, we might not be able to detect them. Or they might have had their 200-year radio thing 1,000 years ago, and be 1,500 light years away. So we won't see that for another 500 years, if you see what I mean. So it's not really a paradox. Because if you think about it, the chances of all this lining up and all the ducks being in a row is very, very slim. That's why we're not seeing anything. Okay, let's just see or hearing anything. Let's just see what else he's got to say about this.
An illustration of a much more advanced society compared to the Earth. This planet is older and the intelligent life is more advanced. So the question is, where are they?
Yeah, well, I think we'll just answer that. Okay, we'll end that clip there. Okay, now Ben's going to talk about these images found in fields, etched in crops.
Is Matthew Williams around? No, he's not. Okay, I wanted to trigger him. This here is a crop circle. I mean, I know it's, for some reason these are always called circles rather than what their shape is. And this is an amazing design. It appeared...
Yeah, note the when any of these images appear in fields, there's always tram lines going through them. See these tram lines? Now these tram lines, this is an aerial image, of course, so these tram lines are quite wide, certainly wide enough to walk along. That's how people walk into the area, mark out the image, and then walk out again without leaving footprints across the field. They walk along these tram lines. All of these images are man-made. This has got nothing whatsoever to do with ET.
In 2002, in a field at Chilbolton in Hampshire, and it's a really beautiful image here. This is like a dot matrix picture, just like the old-fashioned newspapers used to be. And you can see quite clearly, it's a human face staring up at you. It looks almost three-dimensional.
It looks almost three-dimensional. That's because it is three-dimensional, Ben. This is a wheat field. This would be a wheat field. The wheat's probably a metre or so tall. So this is three-dimensional. There is a depth to it.
Amazing. It's almost like there's a depth to it.
Yeah, it's about a metre, maybe a little bit more.
Now, I know some of these are made by guys with planks. And I mean, when I did this presentation at home...
some of them are made by planks, in fact.
Someone actually approached me afterwards and said, Ben, look, these are made... I know who made these. I know the guys who made these. They're made with planks, and the team that made it, I'm familiar with them. It would be more accurate to say he knows who actually owned up to making these. But you'll find with some of these crop circles that 2 or more different teams will own up and claim they made the same circle. So it's...
So what Ben's saying here is that you get 2 groups of people admitting to making the same pattern in the field. So one or both of them have to be lying, or at least one of them has to be lying. So maybe aliens did it. I think what's screamingly obvious here is, Ben's always talking about the alien cover-up. The government is covering up alien visitation. Well, these sort of images in crop fields, in crops, are shown on the evening news. So why aren't these images suppressed by the government if they're done by aliens? Why isn't this information kept from us? I think it's very obviously uni students or people that just enjoy doing this sort of thing. Actually, to make an image like that, they're not going to be planks. That was a bit unkind. It's going to take a reasonable amount of intelligence to be able to do this, and I'm sure they're quite smart guys, but they're certainly members of the human race.
Not one of them can't be correct. Either one of them or both of them are wrong. So I'm open to the idea that these were made by guys with planks. But
oh, good. Well, there is some hope for you, Ben, if you're open to the fact that these images in fields could be made by guys with planks. That's at least something.
Right. Because this appeared at this field, and then next to it, a few nights later, this appeared. You see.
Oh wow! Now he's saying, but what if they weren't? He's open. He's open to the suggestion that these designs in fields could be made by people. But what if they weren't? Well, as I've just said, why are we seeing these images if they weren't, Ben? Why aren't these images suppressed? Why do they just appear on the evening news?
They're both together there, just a short distance away. You see that particular image. Now, does that look familiar? Does that look familiar to you? Because you've seen this before, haven't you?
Could this possibly be a response to the Arecibo Message?
It's the Arecibo Message in the crop circle in the field. Or is it? Take a closer look.
Or is it? Take a closer look. It's not quite the same.
It's a little bit different, isn't it? Now that there again, you get the binary. That's the.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. They've changed some of it. They've changed they've changed it from carbon-based life forms to silicon-based life forms. Favourite fare of science fiction. They've changed the DNA. They've taken the man away and put a little grey alien in here. Yeah, these are people with a sense of humour, and they've said, okay, we've got the third and fourth rocks occupied, and probably some moons around a gas giant here, and they've removed the image of the on the original Arecibo Message. In fact, I might show a clip of that, but maybe not. There was the curved line there and the zigzag showing the energy coming into the dish and being reflected out into space, because Arecibo was the source of the signal. They're showing the source of the signal on the original message, and it was a parabolic dish antenna. It might actually be hemispherical, that one, I can't remember now, but anyway, it's a big dish antenna in Puerto Rico that actually sent the original message. It looked a lot like this, but of course it said carbon-based life, showed our DNA, showed a man, this is the size of the man, etc. So they made the alien a little bit smaller. But this is a fractal antenna, not a dish type antenna as used at Arecibo. This design of antenna is a fractal antenna. Now, yeah, I'd say this is uni students. This is someone that's obviously quite smart with a good sense of humour. What it isn't is a reply to the Arecibo Message. Just think about it for a second. You're the captain. You're the captain of a starship, and you've seen this message, and you want to generate some sort of response. So you go and you etch this pattern in a field. This makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, because a pattern in a field could be etched by anybody. What you would do if you wanted to convince the general public that that the planet was being visited by intelligent aliens, what you would do is you would intercept uplinks to television satellites and terrestrial television station transmitters and all this sort of stuff, and you would make this image appear on every single television screen, on every single channel on the face of the Earth at the same time. So everybody would see this image on their television, regardless of what channel they were watching. They would see it at the same time, and that would be a pretty good demonstration. That would be very, very difficult to do. Etching this in a field, very easy to do. Pulling off something like that, very difficult to do. Aliens might be able to pull that off. Certainly a bunch of uni students is not going to be able to do that. Other thing you might do is draw this in clouds, kilometres long. If you were a starship captain, you can beam this image down and project it onto clouds. That would shine through the clouds. That would be very difficult to do for uni students, but alien spacecraft might very easily be able to do that. Yes, I think it's pretty safe to put a line through this as any kind of response to the Arecibo Message. Okay, I'll end that clip there. Now, this is from the same Ben video. Someone's just asked him, can you tell us about some of your own experiences?
I've seen several things in the sky that I can't explain. A dozen times. 3, I think, actively defy explanation. I've had paranormal experiences, which I don't have time to detail now. I also found out last year, the year before last, I have an implant in my upper left arm.
Oh no! Oh no! Don't jump on that bandwagon, Ben. For goodness' sake, you'll lose any credibility that you had. And I think, to be honest with you, I mean the credibility that you did have would be amongst the UFO brigade. Certainly, when you start talking about off-world bases, I mean that's just Corey Good garbage. Now you've got an implant. You've got an implant in your arm. No. Oh dear. Okay. Well, let's see where he's going with this.
Has not been confirmed by scans, but
okay, it's not been confirmed. So he hasn't got an implant in his arm. Well, what a surprise. He's gone from having an implant in his arm to not having an implant in his arm in less than 15 seconds.
Detected twice by electronic systems of...
Yeah, it's been detected. It hasn't been detected by scans. It's been detected by electronic systems. So he's gone to one of these UFO conferences, and someone's got one of these things you run over a wall, a stud finder, see if you can find any screws and nails or pipes in a wall, and they've run that over his arm and it's beeped. So he's got... That's probably what's happened here, and he's got an implant. Okay. Righto, let's see where else he's going with this.
What's the word where you scan? Yeah, it's been detected.
Yeah, describe the scanner, Ben. Was it one of these $50 stud finders by any chance?
I've not been scanned with the same MRI, which is like a medical illustration of one. I mean, it's very, very expensive actually to have a...
Yeah, it's much cheaper to go down to the local hardware store and buy a stud finder. Or it might have been one of these tri-field detectors. You can get those on the internet. They detect magnetic fields and all that sort of stuff. Again, it's not a professional piece of equipment. And who knows what might cause it to beep. That's a shame actually that Ben's gone down this road. I think as soon as people start saying they've got implants, well, I've said it before, but most of what Ben says is absolute rubbish. It's the fare of the conspiracy theorist. But when they start talking about implants and that sort of thing, then it's just any remaining credibility can be screwed up into a little ball and dropped in the bin. Okay, let's just stop that one there.
So we had to take it from a special Jeep up to the main road. In fact, we were lucky to even get a Jeep since just the day before. Only one we had broke down. Bad accident.
Would you go up, please?
Okay, now here's where we find out what it's really all about.
So that was it. That was me at the East Anglia UFO Group 2018, February 2018 to be precise. Keep a lookout for Panmo Voice, because I've got plenty of other events coming up. In fact, next week, so the 27th, if you're watching this before the 27th of February, get yourself to Swansea, because I'm speaking at the Swansea UFO Network as well. I'm speaking at the Weird Weekend North on sometime in April. I'm speaking at Probe next month in March, and I'm speaking at the Weird Weekend North in April.
Didn't you just say that? But this is what it's all about, I'm presenting here, I'm presenting there, I'm presenting everywhere. All about presentation, standing in front of a crowd, having people asking him questions. It's got nothing to do with the truth, getting the truth out there. It's all about having something to do, and being a bit of a big fish in a little tiny pond.
At some point, check out Pan My Voice. Sorry, I don't have the details to hand, but I'm also speaking, of course, at Dreaming Sources, 12th and 13th of May this year.
Dreaming Sources.
Yeah, check out the trailer on this channel. That's Dreaming Sources. That's one I'm organising in Oxford. Check that out. I'm also appearing at the Rendlesham Forest event in August, and probably many, many more things. I have to do one of these events videos, I think, so everyone knows what I'm up to.
Yes, so you can't miss it. You cannot miss one of my presentations.
But thanks for watching. I hope you have a good day and enjoy the rest of this week, and stay tuned for the next Pan
You're not going to mention your books, Ben?
TV video. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order.
Oh, okay. Well, he didn't. I thought he was going to pitch his books in there as well. I think he did that somewhere else in this video. Don't forget to buy the books, only £10. So there we are, and I'm sure most of these people they only do this because they can sort of present in front of crowds, and they sort of become somebody, because can you come and do this? We're having this thing. Can you come and present here? Can you come and present there? Stand up in front of a crowd, do a presentation, have people asking you questions, without all this UFO ET nonsense, they wouldn't be able to do that. Of course, they'd be sitting at home watching I don't know, Neighbours or Coronation Street, if that's still going. All right, well, I'll end that there. If you've made it this far, congratulations, and I'll catch you next time.